it for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
Playing on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
S-I-C-K.
All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
Playing on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. With Tony Marinaro.
55 seconds left in the penalty, a minute and 27 seconds left in regulation time. Boston 4, Montreal 3. Lafleur coming out rather gingerly on the right side. He gives it into Lemaire, back to Lafleur. Oh!
The sickest Montreal Canadiens podcast.
You're in the ball!
Sports entertainment like no other.
Rejoint, on lui fait perdre la rondelle, une passe devant. Et c'est le dégagement, et ce sera la victoire des Canadiens. Coupe Stanley pour les Canadiens. Le 23e de l'histoire.
You found the dogs! John, you found the dogs! He found the dogs! And all together, they worked a young team to the top. And now, a 24th Stanley Cup banner will hang from the rafters of the famous Forum in Montreal. The Canadiens win the Stanley Cup.
Brought to you by Energy Transportation Group. Driven to be different. La Vida TV. Embrace your true nature. And Playground, your premier gaming destination. It's gonna be sick.
Welcome to the Sick Podcast on this Monday, June 2nd. And yes, the Sick Podcast is brought to you in part by Playground, and we're going to get to them in just a second. Playground, looking for the ultimate entertainment destination? Well, they're your ticket to nonstop thrills. Experience heart-pumping gaming action and world-class poker experience. Playground is a 2025 winner of Fan Choice Best Poker Room at the Global Poker Awards. Indulge your taste buds at their incredible restaurants. Let loose with their live music and electrifying DJs. Enjoy unmatched customer service just minutes from downtown Montreal, right across the Mercier Bridge. Why settle for ordinary when you can have extraordinary at Playground? It's all there. Visit playground.ca to discover more. Also brought to you in part by Bittt Tibi. And of course, they launched their new Ultra Lager. It's a refreshing, thirst-quenching beer, perfect for summer with only 90 calories, 2 grams of carbs, and 4% ABV per can in summer. I think is finally, or at least I hope so. It's a nice day today. It'll be even nicer tomorrow and even nicer on Wednesday. That's the good news. Available in a pack of 6 and 12 in grocery stores all around the province of Quebec. Ultra light, ultra refreshing. And that, of course, goes for the city of Montreal weather, because if you're watching from somewhere around the world, somewhere else, I don't know about your weather, but I do know about Montreal. And also brought to you in part by Energy Transportation Group, a leading full-service logistics provider serving all of North America, driven to be different. They're a top fleet employer in Canada and a great transport company to work at. Take a look at their website, shipenergy.com. Go to their careers section. Without further ado, is usually a regular on Mondays throughout the entire hockey season. Eric Engels is Sportsnet. How are you?
I'm great, man. How are you?
Very good. I know you're covering the Stanley Cup final because I heard you ask Paul Maurice a couple of questions.
No, I covered the Eastern Conference final, and I'm not covering the Stanley Cup final. We got a writer at Edmonton and Mark Spector, and Luke Fox will be tagging back in for Sportsnet. So
there you have it. Thanks for the correction there. I assume you're covering. Does that mean
I spent the last 2 weeks in Florida and Carolina and learned a lot about those teams. That's for sure.
Does that mean you're officially on vacation or not? What's the story here?
Never quite on vacation. Have a lot of off-season stuff to unwind. Get ready for the draft. Get ready for free agency. Get ready for what I think will be a pretty interesting Canadiens off-season, and naturally reserving as much time as I can possibly reserve for you.
Did you consider going to the Combine this week in Buffalo?
No, I wasn't going to line up in terms of my travel plans for the playoffs. Just so happened that the Florida series wrapped up in 5 games, but I would have just been on my way home today had this thing gone as long as I thought it would. Mm-hmm. It didn't, because as we know, Florida's a great team. Not to take anything away from Carolina, but I don't, as much as they cruise through those first couple rounds, we're not looking at the same thing between those two teams, I don't think.
I hear you. Hey, the Frank Selke Trophy winner is now official, and is Alexander Barkov of the Florida Panthers, who joins an impressive list of players who have won the Frank J. Selke Trophy 3 times or more in their career, because this is win number 3 for him. It's now 2 years in a row. And once again, you have it here. 3-time winner, Yuri Lettinen, 3-time winner, Pavel Datsyuk, 3-time winner, Guy Carbonneau, 4-time winner, Bob Gainey, 6-time winner, Patrice Bergeron, and, of course, 3-time winner Alexander Barkov. I wonder if this trophy one day is going to be renamed the Patrice Bergeron Trophy.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I'm in favor of renaming trophies either. I guess you have to go through certain decades to probably get to that point. I think there is a reason trophies are named after certain. Like, I've seen people suggest renaming the Rocket Richard Trophy to the Alex Ovechkin Trophy one day, and I kind of cringe at that idea. So Maybe I'm not in that boat. Maybe you are. I don't know. But
I don't have a problem with it. I don't have a problem with awards and trophies being renamed after those who were the best in the world to do it. Alexander Ovechkin is the greatest goal scorer hockey has ever seen. Patrice Bergeron is, I would think, having won it 6 times, the greatest defensive forward. And once again, the Frank J. Selke Trophy is awarded to the best defensive forward in the National Hockey League. We should also mention that Alexander Barkov is the winner of the King Clancy Award for the player most exemplifying leadership on and off the ice. So congratulations to Barkov. This, of course, the Selke as voted by the Professional Hockey Writers Association. So Eric had a vote. And Eric, would you mind telling me who got your, was it top 3 or top 5 that you had to vote for?
I can't remember. You vote for 5 names. I could tell you that I saw Nick Suzuki got some votes for the Selke.
Yeah.
I know he was the nominee for the King Clancy for the Canadiens. He was not on my ballot for the Selke, but I had to consider putting him there for a 5th place vote. I think my ballot, I can't remember off the top of my head, but I'm pretty sure it was Barkov, Reinhart, Hagel was in there, and
Cirelli?
Possibly
Kopitar,
Stahl. Those are the names that we always volley around. Barkov, I think, was a pretty good choice for the award. And I mentioned Nick Suzuki because obviously what we're going to be talking about today, right? It's the Panthers. I was around them for a couple of weeks. I think there's a lot of things that the Canadiens have in common with them in terms of how they're building and what they're trying to build here. I think there's a lot of things they're missing to be mentioned in the same sentence because naturally they're not on the same trajectory. We're talking about one team who's 3 years into a rebuild and the other that's a primed champion going to a Stanley Cup final for a 3rd straight season. But it really all starts with Barkov for me and Suzuki. Those are 2 players that you can mention in the same sentence. Some people put them there just by giving them both votes for the Selke Award this year. I think you look at the progression of Suzuki, Tony, you'd probably agree the greatest point of becoming better for him was on the defensive side, and it's probably still the area in which he will improve the most between now and the next couple of years of becoming a final product. There's a lot to like about that. To me, the main comparison as we're starting this Florida-Montreal thing is,
if I can just right before that, just so we finish off here, I'd like to show everyone a graphic of who got the votes and how many votes they got. And by the way, this will probably be another podcast for another day. Alexander Barkov finished first with 1,363 points. Reinhart second, just a little bit more than 400 votes behind. Cirelli, only 9 votes behind Reinhart. Nico Hischier, about 350 some odd votes behind Cirelli. Jack Eichel, about 220 odd votes behind Hischier. And then Draisaitl, Marner, Kopitar, Hagel, Lowry, Stahl, Jarvis, Suzuki at 13th with 28 points. Austin Matthews, 14. Alex Tuck, 15. I'll give it a top 20. Marcus Foligno, Phil Deneau, Vincent Trocheck, Mark Stone, Sebastian Aho. Should be noted that Robert Thomas had the same amount of points as Aho, which was 10 points, so he finished tied for 20th.
So, Tony, my ballot was Barkov, Reinhart, Cirelli, Hischier, and Stahl.
Okay, got it. So you had the top 4. Yeah. You had the top 4.
Yeah.
All right.
But I think all those names belong there. I mean, there's so many great defensive forwards in this league. I see, Lowry and Stahl are I had the top 3, I guess. Lowry and Stahl both ended up not on the final ballot, but they were on mine.
You know what? And I'm not doing this from Homer perspective here out of Montreal, but Nick Suzuki was not insulated all that much, especially in the number 2 hole. And he had some really incredible matchups night in, night out. He had some huge responsibilities. He was helped out every now and then. I get it. And Dvorak, every now and then, or Jake Evans every now and then when the Canadiens were on the road. But he had some real tough matchups with Barkov, with McKinnon, with Crosby, with just the best centerman in the game. And I just think, I don't want to dive into it once again, but I think he got the a sour deal at 13th.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I think when you look at the criteria for voting on this award, which I've done for the last 7 years or something like that, a lot of it is based on all the defensive metrics being hit. And the one thing about Suzuki is, does he kill penalties? Yes, sometimes, but he's not a primary penalty killer on his team, right? You had Evans going, you had Dvorak going. That's probably going to change with some of the changes coming down the middle here. The fact that Suzuki was playing the full 2 minutes on the power play is the reason why he was left off the penalty kill a bit more, and because the Canadiens had a pretty good set of forwards to kill with, that they didn't have to overextend Suzuki, considering how much he was playing already at 5-on-5 and on the power play. So that is a factor in the vote. I do like that he got recognition. I do like that some people gave him a second place vote, some a third, some a fourth, and some a fifth. It's all to say that he's trending in that direction, which kind of brings us full circle to why we're talking today, right? You got the Florida-Montreal thing. Like I said, it starts with Barkov and it starts with Suzuki. Now, good defensive players, yes. Good offensive players, yes. Complete players, yes. When you ask the Florida Panthers, and we were talking with them quite a bit over the last couple of weeks about this, where the culture and the health of their team starts with, like the health in their room, everybody talks about Barkov, the calm, selfless, cool leader who does his talking on the ice, doesn't do much of it off the ice, and just his personality of never getting too high, never getting too low. There is a lot of similarities with Nick Suzuki. He is that type of player. He is that type of guy. That's exactly how his teammates would describe him. It's exactly how his coach would describe him. It's exactly how Paul Maurice described him 2 years ago when we were in Florida and Suzuki and Barkov were matched up against each other for a game. So, I think you're looking at how the Canadiens can inevitably find themselves in the same sentence as the Florida Panthers. It starts right there at the number 1 C spot.
All right. Okay. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about, there's actually a clip. It's you and Paul Maurice. You asking a question to Paul Maurice. Let's play the clip. Listen to question and answer.
Hey, Paul. Just in the years since you've been coaching, the game has evolved dramatically. But the ingredients that go into winning, have they particularly changed at all? And if they have, what goes into it?
That's a really great question. And things that we've talked about on our round is the game doesn't care who you are. It doesn't care what style of game you play. It doesn't care how much talent you have. It doesn't care how you feel. It doesn't care what you've been through. There's a set of things that it demands, and it's not perfect, but if you are the team that does the thing that the game demands of you, you have the best chance of winning. So there's mitigating factors to that, and goaltending is one of them. So you can do all the right things the game's demands. So it's not just a matter of how hard you play. The team that plays the hardest usually wins. It's not always, but that's a pretty good factor. And the team that makes the best decisions more likely wins. So that's not dump the puck every time. It's dump the puck when you should, make a play when you should. Easy from the bench, really easy on TV. Very, very difficult at ice level at that speed. So those decisions that are made, and then I think because of then the inconsistencies of the game, and that the goalie can be better than your team some night. Little breaks, some things. The biggest is which team handles the adversity that the game is going to present every single night. That's really important. So how you handle your game. That was a 1-1 game after 2 periods last game. That's tight. It's a break. Either team is up 3-1 after 2, and you can say they earned it. You wouldn't have to be lucky to get to 3-1 for either team. So had it then how you handle that in the game that you're playing, but also in the overall game. If you are respectful of what the game demands, it doesn't matter the style of game you play.
2 more questions, back left.
All right. Okay. So there you have it. I think I got it. He talked about goaltending. He talked about how to handle the game, how to handle the adversity. Are there any notes I did not take down that you took down?
Yeah, well, I was the one who asked the question, and I had some notes that immediately popped into mind as soon as he started talking, because the goaltending he brought up is a mitigating factor. I asked him, the game has evolved a great deal, but what goes into winning hasn't really, unless you disagree. And he basically said no. And then he started off by saying something that we've heard in Montreal quite a lot, said by Martin St. Louis. The game doesn't care who you are, what you've done. You've heard Marty say those things.
Yes.
And the reason I want to focus on this clip, and the reason I sent it into you guys, is because you have two coaches that view the game the same way. Okay, Paul Maurice talks about doing what the game demands over and over again, whether it's a situation where you don't have the numbers and it demands that you dump the puck in, or it's a situation where you have the numbers, you're 3-on-2, and it demands that you make a play. And if you consistently do what the game demands within a given situation, you have a better chance of winning. It hasn't changed. The game has evolved a great deal. It goes much faster than it did when Maurice Richard was playing, much faster than it did when Wayne Gretzky was playing, and much faster than it did when Sidney Crosby started playing.
Yeah.
But what hasn't changed is respecting, as Marty calls them, the rules of the game. And Marty always talks about that. It doesn't care about this. It doesn't care about that. He says that stuff. He also says, I need you to play your game in the game. I need you to play the game. And that's what he's talking about. He's talking about that set of rules, not icing, not offside, but that set of rules of respecting exactly what the game is asking you to do in a specific situation. And the teams that are able to do that consistently win. The Panthers do that consistently. Even against a team that plays such a high-pressure system in Carolina, they won in 5 games. And it's because they, to a man, each one of them, go down the list, respect those rules of the game.
I don't hear you, Eric. Eric, I don't hear you, but that's okay. We'll get Eric back in a sec. You got it? You're back? No, I don't hear you. But this is what I will say. Rod Brindamore, at the end of the series, he said, you know what? More respect for our team. And he was tired of his team getting dissed. And he said, I don't think people realize how good the Florida Panthers are. That's a hockey machine that's on the other side there. Eric, are you back?
Yeah, you hear me?
Yes, I do hear you now.
I just to finalize the point, you have two coaches that view the game and think the game the same way, that inspire their players in very similar ways. While I was in Florida, I went out with Roberto Luongo for a little bit. We played pickleball. And I was just asking him about Paul Maurice, and he said, you know what? He says the right thing at the right time. Not just to you guys in the media is obviously great there, but when you talk to him, when he's in his room and he's got a pulse on his players, he just says the right things at the right. These are qualities that Marty St. Louis has as a coach. He has experienced the game to manage the bench the same way Paul Maurice does. But again, we're looking at the factors of similarity between how the Panthers are built and how the Canadiens are trying to build their team. We talked about Barkov and Suzuki. When you hear Paul Maurice talk about the ingredients of winning, and what he's saying is verbatim the stuff that Marty St. Louis says over and over and over again to us, and we know what the reputation is of both men with their players, those are two ingredients that the Canadiens have going for them as they're trying to build a winner over time.
How does he play pickleball? Is he good?
Roberto's really good.
He's
and
really good, yeah.
His two brothers are even better.
Fabio and Leo.
Yeah, they're really good. Really, really great players.
I saw Leo on Friday night at the Laval Rocket game, because Leo obviously works for the Florida Panthers organization, and he does some advanced scouting and development, and he was checking out the Charlotte Checkers, who are the American Hockey League affiliate of the Florida Panthers, who are playing the Laval Rocket. It was in Laval on Friday night. Now the series has moved over to Charlotte, where Charlotte beat the Laval Rocket yesterday, of course, to take a commanding 3-0 lead in the series. But, so happy. You bring your racket with you, or you get the racket there? Because
I brought it with me, and I played with Leo in Florida, and I had more fun watching Leo play than playing against him, I can tell you that.
I'm asking because I'm considering probably going to Florida next week for a couple of days. Maybe watch Game 3. I haven't booked yet, but I'm considering going to watch Game 3.
You should go. It's great.
Yeah, what's the best time to play pickleball?
At night or early in the morning?
I would imagine that
was the degrees out there.
That was the answer I was looking for. All right, okay. So you talked about the same coaching philosophy that the coaches actually, they see the same recipe, or they have the same recipe to win. Mind you, one coach has the horses right now, and a lot of them more so than the other, and players who are more ready to win now. So he's won third consecutive final. And the other, you believe, well, we say he sees the same way, but obviously he doesn't quite have the horses. How about with the way we started this whole conversation with Suzuki and Barkov? They both obviously are number one centerman in the National Hockey League, elite number one centerman in the National Hockey League, elite 200-foot players in the National Hockey League. Every cup winner needs at least one of those.
And they're off the ice. They're similar as well, as we were discussing, right? Similar demeanors, tempered people, even keel, no matter the situation. Don't panic. And all you've heard about from the Florida Panthers is how they follow Barkov's lead. They've talked about him being – Bill Zito called him a planet of sorts in terms of the energy that he radiates and how everything – I guess planets orbit around the sun, but – he's the sun in this scenario, and the Florida Panthers are orbiting around him. Suzuki, you have the same thing. You may not look at him and say, oh, yeah, he seems like the obvious choice for captain. But then you speak to his teammates, and you speak to the coach, and you speak to the manager, and you see the way he's committed every day and the work that he puts in and the way he carries himself confidently, quietly, humbly. You have the recipe for those things. The coaches, you're right. Paul Maurice, he's got the horses. But if Marty St. Louis is inevitably going to have the horses with his team, there's going to be some moves that need to be made by Ken Hughes. But he has to train those horses that he has right now that are future parts of this core, that are already in place, that you are breeding a winning mentality from an early age. I look at other teams that have great teams that come to maturity and can't win. And why is that? Because from 20 to 23, they didn't pick up those winning habits. So by the time they get to 25, 26, 27, and they're finally in the contention window with the team that they've been building, they have to undo a lot of those bad habits from the early days and start building the good ones. And I'm not saying they can't win ever. Like I look at a team like Winnipeg. That's a team that I would look at and say, there was some bad habits early on. They had to undo them. Now they're in a place where they could win over the last few years. They just haven't been able to get over the hump. Some of that is personnel. Some of that is what I'm talking about. Ottawa's another example. Like they're taking a step forward here, but you look early on in their rebuild, it didn't go the way Montreal's has gone so far. Will that hurt them as they come into their contention window? We'll find out. But I think what helps the Canadiens and what helps them get to a place where inevitably they could become Florida, which is obviously what they want to do, is you have a coach that is instilling that winning philosophy with all the players that are from an age of 18 years old to 23 years old. So that by the time they get to 25, 26, 27, and you're in contention, you're not undoing bad habits. That's critical.
And this podcast is more than just a Montreal Canadiens podcast because Eric talked about planets orbiting around the sun. And, the 8 planets that orbit around the sun in order are Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune, by the way, Eric. So I guess my next question to you is, what is the order of the planets in the solar system?
I don't know.
I'm just kidding.
I mean, I do know, but
and by the way, if someone thinks I was overly intelligent, I was using Google on that one. All right, okay. You had a chance to talk to Aaron Ekblad as well.
Yeah.
Let's hear from him.
Aaron, you go through 3 of these runs, you play through great teams. What makes the difference in winning hockey? What have you learned? What are the key ingredients that gets you over?
It's trust in your game, I think, in any situation. Down 2-0 in a series, down 2-0 in a game, or up 4-1. It's an unwavering commitment to playing the game that we play. You can't change things for any situation. You can't open up your game, and the little details are extremely important. Getting that puck over the blue line in your zone so that they have to dump it back in, putting it in deep every single time. It's really important.
Little details, putting it in deep, getting it behind their D.
Yeah, those were the last things he said, but the first things he said were more important. Unwavering commitment to your style of play, no matter the situation. Unwavering commitment.
Which is what the Panthers have done, right? Please.
Florida Panthers in Game 5, Tony, were down 2-0 to Carolina. Did they change the way they try to play?
Nope.
What did they do? They said, let's go get a forecheck established. They get a forecheck established, they draw a penalty. They draw a penalty, they score on the power play. Score on the power play, immediately back on the forecheck, score a second goal. Boom, it's 2-2.
You need a huge belief in what you're doing to continue to stick to it. So I think it took Paul Maurice a while, and maybe it wasn't quite the right time or the right place, but at one point of his career, because this guy's been coaching national hockey for like 30 years, he said, okay, you know what? I have the team. I've seen the playoffs long enough to know that we're going to play a ground and pound. We are going to intimidate. We are going to hit. We are going to forecheck very aggressively. We're going to go 2 men in. We're going to cause turnovers. We're going to try and be an opportunistic team. I mean, you put it all together, and there's that famous clip that's going around since last year, whatever it is, or even a couple of years ago, where you continue to pound their D because come game 7, they'll have nothing left. They stick with all of those principles all the time and have for the last 3 years.
Yeah, listen, I did an exclusive interview with Bill Zito. He doesn't do a lot of interviews, and it was, he was just nominated for the Jim Gregory Award for a second straight year. I think he should win it this year. You look at the moves he made, just the Marchand trade alone, but Seth Jones and the way he's fit in with the way Florida wants to play kind of starts with him in terms of style of play and the players that he brought in at an early stage of his GM tenure. You look at Matthew Tkachuk and Sam Bennett, it changed the way the Florida Panthers play hockey. Specifically Tkachuk, Bennett was there just a bit before, but those two moves created that brand that you're talking about.
Sandpaper,
but
in your face.
So again, bringing it back to Montreal, they over the most important development for them, it's been 3 years of development, right? The most important thing that happened was them creating an identity and them learning to trust that identity. And they went through it in different phases. If you look early in the season, they couldn't establish their forecheck. They were chasing pucks around their defensive end. It had to change. They had to start committing a lot more to what it is they wanted to do. When you hear Marty St. Louis talk about their good being really good, he is constantly, as the first frame of reference, talking about their forecheck. And their forecheck was very good for the most part. And then, they got through the playoffs and they played against Washington, was a heavy team. They didn't get to establish their forecheck as much as they would have liked to have. A couple bounces here and there. Paul Maurice talking about the mitigating factors, right? Logan Thompson played a couple great games in that series. They didn't get the calls that they were looking for when people got cross-checked in the face. That turns a 7-game series into a 5-game series. It was a closer series than 5 games. But when the Canadiens did what it was that they were trying to do, when they established their forecheck, they were a dangerous, difficult team to play against. And all the guys from the Washington Capitals would have told you that. So building that brand and believing in it to the point that you can have unwavering faith in its success takes time. It's not an overnight process. So the last 3 years, that brand building for Montreal was as big, if not bigger, than any individual development that happened on this team.
I think there's probably a lot of Montreal Canadiens fans that are watching this saying, you know what, Eric, Tony, this all sounds great. Paul Maurice is preaching the same things that Marty St. Louis has been preaching here for the last couple of years. They talked about details. They talked about an unwavering commitment. I mean, we've heard members of the Montreal Canadiens talk about that at times. There's a similarity there in that there's a captain that is an incredible leader both on and off the ice in both cities and both teams, all that stuff. But I think some people are probably saying, but is Marty St. Louis, does he really see the game the way Paul Maurice sees the game? Does he want to win the way Paul Maurice wants to win? Now, this Florida Panthers team, they can beat you any which way and they can play any game of hockey, but yet we know what the strengths of their team are. Do you see a Marty St. Louis team? Do you see a Marty St. Louis preaching to hammer the other team's D every chance you get, to do this, to do that, to send messages, to intimidate? Because even though it's a very talented team, part of the reasons why they've made it to the final 3 years in a row is this team, they play intimidation hockey.
He needs the pieces. It's not up to Marty St. Louis. This is Ken Hughes and Jeff Gordon that are going to have to fill out the pieces that enable the brand that you're talking about. But there's no question that's the brand the Canadiens want to play. It's Marty's emphasis on the forecheck at all times, the high pressure that you put on. And forechecking is not forechecking space. It's forechecking people, as Marty would say. And I would look at their most successful games this season. Who were they played against?
Florida, 4-0.
Florida, who they swept. And how did they do it? They did it by forechecking and pressuring and not allowing Florida to set themselves up the way they like to play. Now, it's regular season. We know that if that stuff happens in the playoffs, the Panthers are going to find a way to get to their brand and win that series. They're just equipped. We talk about what the Canadiens have in common, and I said at the beginning, you don't put them in the same sentence. The Florida Panthers, a team that's going for a third straight year of the final, for a team that's in year 3 of a rebuild. going into year 4. But if you want the Canadiens to get there, they're going to need players like Bennett, Tkachuk, Ekblad. Those are components that they need to add to this mix. And I have no doubt that Ken Hughes and Jeff Gordon are watching. They don't need to be watching these playoffs to know what needs to be added here. There's a lot of skill that's been brought in.
2 of them are unrestricted free agents at the end of the season.
Yep. And I'm sure they're going to be talked about in every single market and not just in Montreal.
You're right. Ekblad and Bennett I'm talking about. Continue.
There are those style of players that will complement what the Canadiens already have in place. And what the Canadiens already have in place is a really promising young core that is evolving and developing together. And you start to put in the right pieces around that. And you also start to look at some of the young players that are in the system in Montreal that you know are going to be successful NHL players that might not necessarily fit or could potentially net you the type of players you need to win. You know, there's plenty of teams out there that possess some of these players but don't have enough of a winning team to be holding on to those players, that need younger, more talented players coming through the system in the ranks. And this is the hardest part of a rebuild, is if you're the GM of a team that's on the upswing, like the Canadiens are, like Vegas was years ago or Los Angeles was, you have to be willing to look at some of your young assets and say, oh, this guy's a 7-year player for us under control in the NHL moving forward, but we can get a guy who's going to help us for the next 3 that helps us win now. You know, we might not be there in the summer of 2025.
Yeah.
But the Canadiens are rapidly approaching that time where they start looking at a good young player in their system that might be better somewhere else, whereas they can bring somebody in who can help them win now. And those are the types of moves that I think we may not be exactly there in 2025, but by 2026, the emphasis really starts to shift in that type of way to not only start a window of contention, but keep it open for a long time. So,
the Sick Podcast is brought to you in part by Accent Insurance Solutions. You know, all insurance isn't created equal, and you know where to find the right solution for you. Accent Insurance. Accent doesn't sell insurance. They shop insurance for you to find the right product right on the money, whatever your insurance needs, home, automobile, or business. Visit their website, www.accentassurance.com. Their number to call is 514-363-3636. Who's going to win the Stanley Cup? Go all the way with Betway. Get a free bet up to $200. First bet loses. Scan the QR code on the screen or click on the link in the details section to create an account. Redeem your welcome offer. Offers only available for new customers. Terms and conditions apply. Offers not available in Ontario. Must be 18 years of age and older. And please play responsibly. Eric, in ending, some news from the KHL earlier today. And there you have it. SK fired head coach Roman Rodenberg. Why did they do that? Well, they went into detail. A SKA board of directors meeting took place earlier today. As a consequence of having not achieved the desired results, the contract with Roman Rodenberg has been terminated. The board of directors noted Rodenberg's productive efforts with the SKA system across the years. All right, okay. So there you have it. Rodenberg out of a job, which is too bad. Yeah, but anyway, okay. I talked about Betway. Who's your Stanley Cup pick?
I got Florida. And look, that's with respect to Edmonton, who has found a level of depth scoring that they didn't have last year.
Yeah.
That's like them getting Ekholm back too. Their blue line looks different. Stuart Skinner is playing great hockey in these playoffs, at least towards the back end of them, and what just happened in Dallas. And I understand, like, I think it would be great if Edmonton won. I think it's time for the drought in Canada to end, and I'd love to see McDavid lift the cup, honestly. Like we've always said, we don't cheer for teams, cheer for players. I'd like to see Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl win the Stanley Cup. But I can't bet on it, having been around the Panthers for the last couple of weeks. They just find a way. Like what they have, that familial atmosphere, the willingness to do it all for each other and to have an unwavering commitment to the style of game they play and establish it no matter the situation.
Yeah.
It's so hard to bet against them. And even if they falter in that department, Sergei Bobrovsky is amazing.
Yeah, well, I find there's a can't lose in this series for me because I'm cheering for the Luongos, as I did a year ago. And a year ago, I was cheering for Connor McDavid. And Leon Draisaitl, unfortunately, were on the losing end. And I bet against Edmonton in all 3 series. I bet against Florida in the first series, but I bet for Florida in Series 2 and Series 3. I'm going to go with the Edmonton Oilers in 7 games, and we'll see what happens. Maybe it's more my heart speaking, because I've always said that the biggest injustice in sports is when some of the greatest players of all time don't end up winning a championship. And usually, most often, they do. But on the rare occasions that they don't, it really hurts. And I can't, most people in the world love Connor McDavid, but some will tell you he's not a winner. And I don't want to hear that anymore.
Yeah, I think that's crazy talk. Anybody who thinks like that is crazy. But I'll take Florida in 7. I have an ending question for you.
Tough building to win in, by the way, Edmonton. Tough building to win in.
If I'm not wrong, if I end up being right, will the Oilers have another chance better than the one they have in front of them right now? Like I don't know how they could possibly get a better chance than the one they have right now after going last year and making it a 7-game series despite going down 3-0. Like if they don't do it now, it might be never.
Wow.
With this core,
I hear you. But the core's still under contract, right?
Yeah, the two guys, the main 2 guys are there for a while, and so is Zach Hyman.
Yeah. Is Florida going to be back next year?
I think Evan Bouchard is going to get a pretty healthy raise.
I would think so. He's been fantastic, by the way, in the playoffs. And by the way, a lot of credit to Darnell Nurse, who's been much better. This guy was the whipping boy about a year ago, and Darnell Nurse, I think, has had himself some pretty good playoffs. Anyway, I think we're gonna be in store for a great Stanley Cup final. Eric, thank you. We'll be watching, and you and I will be in touch. Thanks so much, my man.
Thanks, Tony. See ya.
All right, there again. Eric Engels of Sportsnet, sportsnet.ca. The Sick Podcast brought to you in part by Energy Transportation Group, by Playground, Bittt Tibi, Accent Insurance Solutions, and Betway. Special thanks to all of you for watching on YouTube, on Facebook, and on Twitter. This podcast was recorded a little bit earlier this evening. Special thanks to Shane Gaumont and Master Control. Leave us a 5-star review. It's our way of feeling the love on Apple. It's a Sick Podcast. I'll be back tomorrow night, same time, same place. Thanks for watching.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast with Tony Marinaro on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts. The Sick Podcast is brought to you by Energy Transportation Group, driven to be different. LaVita.tb, embrace your true nature. And Playground, your premier gaming destination.